Let me get, there we go. So we don't miss anything important.
Thank you
Are
for doing
you?
this again.
Oh, you're welcome. It's just a nice opportunity because, I'm finding out there's quite a few people that are not going to be able to attend the reunion. So this way they get to at least still participate. And then with the
Uh,
distances between us, even people we stay in touch with, it's hard to, stay in touch with and keep track and keep up. So are you in Hawaii, Kalani?
yeah, I'm in Honolulu, Nu'uanu.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, good, man. Let's get a nice starting point. What grade did you start Kamehameha?
So I started in the seventh grade.
Okay.
Uh, Before that, I came from Kalihi School, Billy Puckert, and I think Ellen Yago came from Kalihi too.
Oh, wow.
Remember Elena or Ellen Yago? She's now Po'ai. And before that, I was at Wanalua, a bad experience. And before that, for an elementary. So in the third grade, Wanalua, I think, was kind of a new school. And these are all homeowners and military. The Shafter didn't have a school. All the Hawaiian kids came from the Coast Guard housing because our fathers served in the National Guard, yeah.
Hmm.
And so we lived at Red Hill, uh, Coast Guard, Coast Guard housing. So our teacher, Mrs. Matsuda, I'll name her name because she's dead. She had us do well, anyway, she didn't like Hawaiians, evidently.
Wow.
They have this family, she called them damn Portuguese, but they're actually Hawaiian. But they're like maybe they're half of Portuguese. But so anyway, in the third grade, um, she had us write an essay, what we wanted to be. So I said I want to be a doctor because I was in a hospital a lot when I was a kid. And so she graded it. We came back, then we had to read it. So I said, I want to be a doctor, blah, 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 blah. And then she said at the end, Keith, I went by Keith, yeah, back then in school. Keith, you can't become a doctor because you'd have to go to college. And Hawaiians don't go to college. So
Wow.
she planted a seed in the air. This story is not unique to me. I met a lot of people who had teachers like that. But anyway, she planted a seed in me that I was going to go to college. Yeah. I was going to show her, lady, you're wrong. Because back then, as well as in high school, I was very quiet. Yeah. I was very shy and timid. So I didn't answer her back. But inside of me, I'm thinking, I'm going to show this lady one day. So I actually met someone, a colleague of hers, and I told her, and she must have Mrs. Matsuda must have been, she was in a nursing home. Anyway, I said, when you see Mrs. Matsuda, please tell her thank you. She's not going to remember me, but thank you. But because of her, I went to college.
Well, that's motivation, but yeah, because you figure we're talking elementary school, late 60s, yeah? Mid late
Right.
60s.
Yeah. So back
And
then, the stereotype of Hawaiians was lazy Hawaiians, stupid Hawaiians, partying Hawaiians. Those are all the stereotypes that we faced back then. But anyway, I heard you say that when you were in seventh grade, you had to go to speech therapy. Yeah? Was that you? That was you,
yeah,
right?
for my Hawaiian island dialect, they called it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, me too, because I didn't know the difference between axiomata and ask your mother. I didn't, I would always say street. I said, well, what the heck is this streets? I had to practice that word a lot. Street, street, street. But anyway, she entered us into these speech competitions. Did you have to go into it?
I don't know if I got to that point. I was very belligerent. I hated those sessions because, like you said, I would sit there and repeat a word dozens of times. I mean, how
Yeah.
boring is that?
Well, she would make us go in. She entered us into a speech competition, and actually, that became one of my call them tribes. Yeah, everybody in high school got to find a tribe. If you find your tribe, then you find your place. You find a niche. Whether it be sports or whatever. But so my niche at that time was speech, but also, we had to take electives, right? What elective did you take? Band or
You're talking high
uh,
school or
no, no, in seventh grade.
wow.
Well, it was
Geez,
either I remember I had a choice between French and orchestra band. I don't know what the thing was, so I took French. Yeah, you don't remember what you did? Probably band, huh? No.
no, I never played an instrument or nothing choral or anything. So, hmm, I don't know.
That's
When did we have to sit through this? Like outside of school hours or
no, it's a regular class. It was a regular class. I remember French was with Mademoiselle Soli after lunch, and then everybody would go to the wherever. But I just remember because I wanted to go to band, but I didn't have money to pay for the instrument, so I took French. It was more easy. Then in high school, true story. In high school, I don't know if you remember. So freshman year, I took French. Sophomore year, the school converted into kind of I don't know, not digital, but maybe analog selection process for your classes. So I wasn't given French, I was given Hawaiian language. And I think Kamu mentioned this too. I wasn't given US history. I had I had Hawaiian culture. Anyway, I was giving all Hawaiian classes, yeah, instead of the regular classes. So I didn't opt for that. So I just stayed with it, and that became another tribe, so to say, for me to follow Hawaiian. Myself and Kalani Kahala,
okay,
Frank Kahala.
yeah.
Yeah. And actually
Oddly
Frank
enough,
was
later in my life, I was probably early mid 20s. I ran into him in San Antonio. I was living
was he,
there and he came up for a performance or a class maybe or something.
when was this?
I want to say I was in my early to mid 20s. So what would that have been? Early 80s maybe?
Possibly because he went into the army after high school. He went straight
Oh,
into the army.
I never realized that.
Yeah. And then later on he came back and he studied his halal. So might have been in the later 80s or so. I don't know, military is what, 4-year stints.
Usually, yeah. Well, I think you were fortunate in that because in retrospect, I always kind of regret, you know, our year was kind of the conversion year when they were starting to introduce the Hawaiian classes. And I guess after we graduated, they became mandatory.
Right, right, right.
But for
So
us, it was choose. So,
I
and I
took
didn't,
3 years of Hawaiian, sophomore, junior, senior, and we only had from our class, it was only myself and Palani in the class. By the time we got to third year, was myself, Palani, um, Raymond Elia's brother, Kaniela Elia, look, Helene Fergerstrom. There are only 4 of us, but now they're like hundreds of them. They have several classes.
yeah.
And these kids nowadays, they're so sharp. Yeah, which is
Oh,
good for us. You know, they can converse and all. So lucky for me, I was able to skip over first year Hawaiian because I had enough Hawaiian at Kamehameha. But Palani is also the one that turned me on to hula. So we're sitting in what is that building called Keua? That was the languages building, yeah, Keua. And Mrs. Quick's class, no, she's Kumukiahi. We're sitting outside waiting for Kumu Quick. And Palani goes to me, he goes, "Hey, Kalani, wanna dance hula?" I said, "No." I said, "No." He said, and he kept prodding and prodding. And he said, "Kalani, if you take hula, then it will help you improve your Hawaiian, which is my goal, right? I wanted to learn how to speak Hawaiian. I wanted to learn how to speak Hawaiian like Kahu Kahupu when we had a
Oh,
Coliseum, right?
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
he would always give these Hawaiian short, but I was so inspired by that. I wanted to speak like him, but I didn't want to take hula. But because of Palani, I got involved in hula. He started his hula club. Kamuela Chan was talking about that, you know, the hula club that Palani started. And that's how I got into hula,
Peer pressure, huh?
of all things. Yeah. So actually, after high school, I took two paths. One is the professional, vocational, which is wanting to be a teacher. And I think I just finished listening to Stephanie. No, no, no. So I think it was Sule, and she became a doctor, yeah, optometrist. But I wanted to go into teaching, partly because remember the Mrs. Matsuda story, the Hawaiians don't go to college. Partly because of that, but also because I was really lucky my sophomore year. Um, I think what is that, 16? No, maybe it was my junior. Anyway, one of those years, I went to get a job at the cannery. Remember, everybody went to work at the cannery, or they went to Lanai to pick pineapples
Yeah. I was
or
at the
whatever.
cannery myself, so
So after my training, I got a call that they wanted to hire me for explorations as a program aide in Hawaiian language. So I went through all that training on the Jinaka machine at Dole Cannery, but luckily I got spared from the smell of that, and I worked at Kamehameha and explorations. That year, after that year, Glenn Yim, Kalena Yim, Patrick Choi, myself, Kilohano Domingo, who is 70, class of 76. We were all in explorations and we decided we're going to do a service project. So Mr. Harpstroit, who was our principal at that time, he encouraged the students to do service projects. And I don't know who else did any, but we did. So we started this service project called Kalabilaba Ana Unahamana Inakaiulu, which was to take the explorations concept of rotating students between hula, language, sports, and music. And we did it like exploration. So our first school was Lincoln Elementary School in the heart of Papakolea. And we did really well. We went through the senior year. Other of my classmates got involved. Noe Chan, what do we call her in high school? Naomi, I think. Naomi Chan.
oh, okay,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Ellen Yago Poai.
So elementary level, you're taking them.
Right. We're taking our classes. You know, I think I did taught hula. Kalena did sports. You know, he did his business, yeah, Kalena. He made all the sports equipment, Konane boards and all of that. And he was quite an entrepreneur in high school.
Wow.
So all the schools that he serviced, he made their sports equipment and sold it to the school.
Were you guys doing this during the school year or
Yep.
summertime or what?
Yeah, no school year. We got off from our classes. I don't know how we did that, but anyway, we got off of our classes. Um, I think two periods, and we were able to go, and we continued actually 3 years after I graduated that program.
Wow.
So anyway, it helped to solidify my desire to be a teacher. And I think Sulin was telling the story about her counselor telling her not to go into her field, right? Was it Sulin, right?
Yeah.
I had the same experience. I bet we had the same counselor. Mine was Mr. White. Remember Mr. White?
Yeah, I do. I do.
So he was a nice guy, but he was an awful counselor. So he told me, Keith, you don't want to go into teaching. There's a glut of teachers. You don't want to go into that. According to your test scores, you would be better like in tourist industry or military. Hello, military, what? And stuff like that. I was like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. And then he said, what language are you going to take? foreign language. I said, I'm not going to take a foreign language. I'm going to take Hawaiian. He said, well, you should consider taking Japanese because right now in the economy, tourism is strong and blah, blah, blah. And I was so insulted by him. But luckily, Noe-chan, you were in Kana'iopunia,
Yeah, yeah.
Kermit.
Hmm.
I don't know if you remember this, if you guys were invited, but Noe-chan, Naomi-chan, Noe-chan, I call her Noe, was the editor of Kamui, right? So they had invited Trustee Myron Thompson to do a talking class. Were you guys invited to that?
I don't believe so.
Or must have just been Kamui staff. But anyway, Myron Thompson said something that after he got out of the army, they were all deciding what they're going to do with the GI Bill. And Mr. Thompson decided he's going to go into social work because he wanted to help Hawaiian kids. And everybody's telling me, don't go into social work because this and that and this and that. But Mr. Thompson said, and this is what impacted me the most, he said, if somebody tells you not to go into a certain field, you should probably go into that field. Why? Because everybody else going to listen to the naysayers and they're not going and more room for you. Oh, that's perfect. So I went into education. After Kamehameha, I went into, well, you got to take all those courses at Manoa. And I don't know who was saying that Manoa is boring. Oh, Stephanie Awaya.
But it could
Um,
just very well be, they either didn't have a set direction, or I believe this one's not posted yet, but I talked to Larry Kirihiro, and he said the same thing. He was after or trying to target the wrong field, a field that he really didn't have a passion for. So,
Larry went to UH, yeah. He went to University of Hawaii, yeah. Yeah, he's the only one I remember ever seeing on campus, but we're never crossed paths. I don't remember a lot of us, 75 people at Manoa. So it's really quite lonely. There weren't a lot of Hawaiians. I mean, there was a sea of Asian faces and a scattering of Haoles. And if you saw a Hawaiian, it was like in passing because we all had jobs and after work, after classes, we had to zoom off to our different jobs and whatever. Fortunately, I did get a few scholarships. I didn't go away because I wanted to pursue education. But the other thing I call my traditional path is after high school, I um, I wanted to either join a canoe club or join a halau. I couldn't find a canoe club. If I did, I probably would be 200 pounds lighter. But I did find a halau, which was Kahai Tapalinski. And I stayed with him for many, many years. And along the way, I also learned chanting. So Kamuela followed the same path, but he went on the Big Island, yeah, in Hilo campus. And I pursued my here, these two kind of traditional path and your professional path alongside. I kind of cherish my traditional training more than I did. I got all my degrees from UH in education, my bachelor's, my master's, and my doctorate, all in education. But my true passion is really perpetuating our language and the hula and chanting. In fact, Kamu and I have a collaboration coming up in September where we're gonna chant the Kumulipo. Do you remember the Kumulipo? This is our
mm.
people's. It's 2,102 lines that talks about the creation of everything on earth, beginning from the darkness and slime to small creatures to crawling creatures to flying creatures, and eventually you get down to man. So I'm collaborating on him and some other kumu on that project. Yeah, so
In your early years and your training, did you ever cross paths with Charles Kaupu?
no, not really, because Charles moved to Maui. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Mike was saying that he was in language, but Charles's interest in Kamehameha was more band. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah, he was in the band. He wasn't. he didn't take Hawaiian. I think he took Hawaiian later on when he went to move to Maui. But yeah, Charles really took off on the I mean, he was just naturally talented. Yeah, I had to work at chanting, but he's like Palani. They're just naturally talented. You want to hear a funny story?
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know, Pal- Palani and I, she's the one that got me involved in hula. Years later, when you have this thing like ancestry.com and you take your DNA test and all, doing that, I found out we're actually first cousins.
You and
Yeah, I did it.
Palani?
Yeah, I didn't know that until I graduated. Well, actually, the technical term is first cousin once removed. So
Okay.
his
Well,
great grandfather and my great grandmother were brother sister. Kekaula. His was Sam Kekaula. My great great grandmother was Camila Kekaula from Maui via Anahola, Kauai. Yeah, so we were related. I never knew that. In fact, I there's a lot more classmates I'm related to by marriage. I won't mention the name because they probably don't know, but that also shocked me. Wow, we're related by marriage.
now before I lose my thought, because you said it and I caught it and I don't want to lose it. You have a doctorate in what?
Oh, in education.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very
So
impressive. Congratulations.
I'm a doctor, but I can't prescribe medicine.
You can help them spell out the prescription, probably.
I know, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I did that in 2013. Yeah, 2013. I just decided, after I got my master's, well, no, that's too much work. But there was this push for 500 Native Hawaiian PhDs by, I forgot the date, maybe 2000 or whatever, 2025, something like that. So I said, I'm going to join the fray. And I'm not going to do it on something that, I'm going to do it on something that would benefit our people. So I did it on string figures, you know, Hawaiian string figures, because it's more than a game. Yeah. You can tell history, you can tell genealogy, et cetera, et
Wow. I
cetera.
never realized. That's interesting.
Yeah, most people don't because, a lot of our culture, especially games, hula, and all of that were suppressed by the missionaries. Yeah. So that's what I did my dissertation on. And so as a result of that, I've been able to go to a lot of conferences. And also as a result of hula, I've been able to travel the world, you know. I guess I think Kathy Thurston was talking about that, yeah. Her involvement in that industry took her around the world. So that was good about hula, exposed to different cultures and peoples.
So you've been to places like Asia and the Orient and
Yeah. So as a
any South
teacher,
America?
I have never been to South America and Africa. Yeah, but every place else I've been to.
Wow.
Yeah, so lucky I did travel when I was younger. I have a harder time now. I'm in a wheelchair now, yeah. I use a wheelchair. So
Oh, okay.
you'll see me at probably bring my scooter to the reunion. In 2017 I had a stupid fall. I lost my balance and I hit my head
Uh-huh.
and it crushed my cervical spine, my nerves in the spine. So I
Oh,
was paralyzed. And I didn't realize my crab had that same kind of experience, but I was paralyzed for about 2, 3 months, and then slowly, because of the surgery, they loosened the spine, the cervical spine. They kind of made an opening so that the nerves could grow back. And fortunately, if not for the prayers and the belief of my family and friends, I don't think I would have made it. Yeah. But what I found out is my surgeon was saying that a lot of Asians and Pacific Islanders grow an extra bone on the side of their spine. And what that does is it puts pressure in it. actually makes the cervical spine smaller. And that's why my things are crushed. But anyway, I slowly regained ability and now I can walk with a walker. But when I go places, I zoom about with my little scooter. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Now,
so God is
before your
God is
fall,
merciful.
was your mobility good before your
Well,
fall?
it was unsteady. The Hawaiian word is kapekepeke. I was unsteady. I had to use a cane. But part of it was because we found out that, I had arthritis in my lower lumbar spine. Yeah. So it was making it difficult, but nowhere compares to the having to go through all that therapy and all. I know brother Mike would understand because sounds like he went through the same. Now I saw him about maybe 2014 or so. Camuela and I went up to a National Indian Education Association convention at Portland. So he came down from wherever he was living. And he said he was in an accident, but I didn't know it was that severe. So,
Yeah,
you
he got
know,
hit by a car and pretty, high speed kind of thing. Lots of impact, lots of force. So,
yeah. So, mahalo ke akua for all of those prayers that he and I and others we don't know of in similar situations were able to get through that ordeal.
yeah, wow, that's surprising. So, the halal portion of your career ran till about what period of time? What years?
It's still going. I still teach.
Oh, right on. That's
So in
awesome.
2000, so I graduated as a kumuhula from my kumu in 1984. When I graduated from college, I had a teaching job at Royal School, and then luckily I got picked up the following semester by Mrs. Wells at Kamehameha Elementary. So I taught at Kamehameha Elementary for 4 years. I think Ronel Kaanapu and I think Stephanie also came to Kamehameha, taught at Kamehameha, Stephanie Alba. Anyway, I know Stephanie from the educational field. So I did that. And then I went into the DOE Hawaiian Studies and DOE Hawaiian Immersion for a while.
Yeah.
But
But
anyway,
primarily on Oahu the whole time.
right. So my halal, it's taken many forms. During COVID, of course, we did everything by Zoom. So I still teach chanting, Hawaiian chant or Oli on Zoom. And one of the big projects is that collaboration with Kamuela to chant the Kumulipo. But yeah, so it's been fulfilling. Um, I finally retired in 2023 after 36 years with the state of Hawaii.
Hmm.
Um, I could have actually, and I should have retired when they offered us. We had my last job was at Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We had several RIFs, reduction in forces, 2008, 2011, 2018. So I should have taken the buyout package because I could have retired after 30 years with the state with full benefits. But I don't know. I guess everything is in God's timing and it has a purpose. So 2003, I finally retired and life has been wonderful.
Good,
Can do
good.
everything I want. So I think
And
Sulin was saying she was doing painting. So I do painting. I do weaving. So what I do is I'm getting to Hawaiian weaving right now. With we use split rattan, but our kupuna use iea vine. Most people don't know what the iea vine, but our kupuna made the best baskets in the Pacific. So I'm learning how to do that. So when I'm doing that, I listen to. I just finished listening to Stephanie Awa's thing. So I just listen, because you don't have to look at the face, right? Once you see the
yeah,
face, you just listen. So that's
And
been a good,
there's a small handful of you. Kevin Garcia says he, cleans his car while listening, and somebody else does the treadmill thing or something. And yeah, it's all audio. I mean, and good enough. You're there for the stories, not the expressions, or
right.
it's not like we're super animated. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
miss
yeah, yeah,
something. So
yeah. I was laughing because when he did Lupo's interview, I was like, she uses hands. Yeah, I was like, just like she was in high school. So I think in high school she was involved with speech like me. So I was a speech nerd. You had math nerds and science nerds. I
and
was a
if I
speech.
remember correctly, Lupo did some of the drama type stuff too.
She was in dramatic interrupt. I think she even won some. I think she even won the state one year. But anyway, I just remember as being very expressive person. So when I saw her interview, I went, "Oh wow!" Just like she hasn't actually. Everybody's pretty much the same. Yeah, yeah,
For the most part.
yeah. So I'm still teaching Oli. In fact, I'm training a cadre of leaders to become kumuhula. I've been doing that since 2012, maybe. So what is this? 12 years. Yeah. Just to produce more leaders, I didn't get married. I don't have children. So these are my children and my grandchildren. Yeah.
And as an educator, I remember talking to Jeff Noah and Rhonda. Do you have any stories where one of your students you've met them or come across them, years, maybe decades later, and they've thanked you for how you've helped them as a student?
Yeah, I do. And also from parents.
That's
Um,
just got to be so heartwarming, man. I mean,
well, especially since the Kulakai Puni Hawaiian language immersion, because it takes a family. It really takes a family to commit to learning the language and having their kids immersed in something that was unknown. Yeah, we were always told, "Oh, why you want to learn? Why you want to teach them Hawaiian? They're going to be disadvantaged and blah blah blah." And actually, after the first cohort came out of the Kulakai Puni, we're wrong. These kids, they learn both languages well, you know, and they do well. They go to college, some become housewives or whatever, but that's still a noble profession in my opinion.
oh man, I would never be able to survive it. It's a lot of work.
And that's right. So all the stay-at-home moms, what do they call it? Domestic engineers.
Yeah.
That's what a
I've kind
stay.
of learned through the years, one of the questions I developed too is if I'm talking to someone that I know is a homemaker, I ask, oh, so do you work outside the house? Because I know you definitely work inside the house. So, you know, because you get that. Some people go, oh, okay, so you just stay home, do nothing. Then no, that's not the case. When they say, oh,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a housewife. Oh, so you just stay home, do nothing. No, they work. They work, man.
yeah. I have a lot of admiration for mothers and people who do that kind of work. Well, as we say, the parent is their first teacher, yeah,
True. And
before they
that can
come to
go
school,
very good or very bad.
right? So the average word count for a child um entering kindergarten to be successful is they need to know 15,000 words. Yeah.
Wow.
15,000. They should know. Not read, but they should know. So a lot of our kids, especially in disadvantaged areas where the income is lower, they come in with like maybe less than 5,000 words, knowing 5,000 words, you know. But anyway, that is the legacy that did you know Malia Craver? She was with Queen Lily Okalani Trust for a long time. She wrote
Mhm.
several songs. Anyway, her favorite saying was "Build a legacy, build a legacy." Yeah, and we sort of had that same charge, yeah, leaving Kamehameha, um, to continue Pauahi's legacy. And what is that oath we take? We, the pupils of the Kamehameha schools, in honor of our Ali'i, do whatever. I forgot it right now. But to become young men and women of industry and whatever. Yeah. But Hawaiian style, yeah, we want to give back. Yeah. Yeah. So everything that was given to us, we want to give back to Pauahi, hence the scholarship.
Yeah.
Plug for the
And
scholarship again.
I feel very positive. We were like 7,700 bucks off our goal, and I think we're gonna hit it. I really do. There's going to be a big push right toward the end. We're going to get there the first week of June, and I think the numbers are going to reflect the class that we are.
Hopefully they we sort of a slow goer class, yeah.
That's true.
Slow in the beginning, but once we get to the final push, we'll make it. Yeah. So I agree with you. We'll make that.
And I think that's probably a view they had of us as high schoolers, but 50 years later, we're a different breed, really. I think so. We
Well,
definitely are.
we were at a disadvantage of having the class of 1976, the so-called centennial class, right? After us. So I know when I was involved in student government, it appeared that more attention was placed on them than upon us, but that's just my opinion.
Could very well be true. I mean, those uh those things exist below the surface sometimes, and you just
Yeah,
catch glimpses of them, but you usually get enough to form a valid opinion.
yeah, 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 very true.
Uh, do you have siblings, Kalani?
I had one brother. He passed away.
Oh, sorry to
Um,
hear that.
yeah, well, he went to the gym, he came home, he thought he was having an asthma attack. So he took his inhaler, but that actually pushed his heart over. So he had a heart attack. He was skinny, I was fat. He
Was
was
he was he younger or older?
older, 4 years older. My brother was a genius. He had an IQ of 130, but he
I
dropped
don't
out of
even know what is normal, what is average.
normal is 100. That's the
Wow,
average,
okay.
right? That's in the bell curve. That's right in the middle, 100. And then you either fall this way or that way. So he was, I, I don't know if 130 is genius, but he was very, very smart. But he dropped out of school in the eighth grade, ran away from home, and actually made his way to California and didn't come back until he was like in his late 20s. Uh, but
Wow.
anyway, yeah, he was an artist. He was a person before his time. But a lot of my relatives did go to Kamehameha. Um, I think we had Akana or Wood or Kekaula. Those are all the kind of STEM families. Akana, Wood, Kekaula. And every year since the first graduating class until my year, until my year, I did have a cousin who went from kindergarten to first semester, 12th grade, and then he got kicked out in the last semester.
Oh,
So we call Poho, yeah. He was a good wrestler. He could have gotten a good wrestling scholarship, but he ended up going to Kaiser, and then he's now in Colorado. But yeah, so I always knew I wanted to go to Kamehameha. Certainly, if I didn't go to Kamehameha, I think I wouldn't have done as well as I did because of, you know, all the opportunities at Kamehameha, right? right? If you had to go outside island, the school paid. I don't know if they still do that, but they paid for your trip and whatever.
Now, did you just test once then? Seventh grade?
I think I tested in kindergarten because there's a story about me. There's a when I taught at Kamehameha, I had to do interviews, yeah. So there was this question about draw a path from A to B. So what I did was I remembered drawing tracing over the line, but the correct answer is you gotta go between the two lines of the road. But I traced the line, so it was a no pass.
Wow.
But I got in seventh grade. A good thing, you know. That was my homeroom teacher was Mr. Smith, IBS Smith.
Okay. So then maybe you can answer the question because I was in the other class with a female teacher. Do you remember her last name?
No, I
I
just know.
something inside me wants to say Barkley, but I'm not certain at all. And I
Yeah,
talked to Richard Opiki and Grayling, who were both in that D&E, I think, wasn't it? You remember if it was D&E, homerooms D&E?
yeah. Right by the breezeway, right?
Yeah, yeah. And none of us can remember that Wahini's name. I don't know. So
Yeah. Then eighth grade, I was in Mr. Granger's class, the tall, howly social studies teacher.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, seventh grade was to me was hard.
But you were a day student, right?
Yeah, day
Yeah.
student.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was a strange, tough beginning, and I don't necessarily know if it would have been harder for a boarder or a day student, but it was tough. But I think the school managed to incorporate us fairly quickly by keeping us busy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Don't give us time to regret or whine or cry or just want to give
But
up.
it toughens you up, right?
Yeah, if
I
you don't
think
have
you and
time to think
Patrick were
about how
saying
unhappy you are.
how you helped you assimilate to other kinds of conditions.
It's
You
come
guys
in
were
handy for
born.
me since Kamehameha. I've
My
gone
senior
to
year,
lots of places.
I was an illegal boarder. I was I was one of my jobs was to clean the swimming pool, me and Teen Chow. And Teen Chow was a legitimate Molokai boarder. So he and I would clean the pool and then he would get lunch, dinner from the thing. So instead of going home, I stayed at Walter Kahiva's pad. Remember Walter Kahiva? He was Kaleo Papa dorm.
Yeah.
What dorm were you in, Kermit?
Liho liho.
Oh, right next to him. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know how I did that. I don't even remember. I just remember cleaning the pool, eating my dinner, going to crash at his house. I don't even know what I did for clothes or whatever. It's a blur, but you know, thankfully I was able to do that. It's a nice job. Yeah, just chill the machine in the pool, scrape the sides, eat your dinner, beautiful sunset.
Oh, I mean, being up on campus outside of school hours, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. As a boarder, I remember numerous Sundays we go down, break into Kikohaupio, play basketball for 3 or 4 hours, eat lunch, go back down, play some more, eat dinner, or we catch the bus, go someplace. But I mean, lots of times too, outside the windows on the Mackay side, a big, pretty good sized ledge. So we used to go
Oh yeah,
out
yeah, yeah.
nighttime and sit there and just look down at Honolulu and just chill out and just relax and marvel in like the beauty of it. It was very calming, very relaxing, very soothing for me. I loved it.
Yeah, Liho Liho um had a nice view, yeah. I guess all of them did, but I can't imagine. the other ones. So it was Kaleo Papa.
Liho
Above them
Liho and
was
Kamehameha
Kamehameha,
on the
Leo Leo,
Rosa.
Kaleo Papa,
Yeah.
and Luna Lilo,
Uh,
Kapua Iva.
ah, that was a girls' dorm, so I don't know if I remember exactly the name, but and then Luna Lilo on the other side. No,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So anyway, that's my confession. I was an illegal dorm dormer.
yeah. I was just trying to get myself prepared for the trip, and did the package to stay in the dorms. And I imagined for some silly reason it was going to be the high school dorms, but it's not. It's down in intermediate,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
Because they're using Kalama.
it's also a name I don't recognize. So I'm going to have to search around and find the dorm I'm staying in. So
Really?
yeah, because we
Alice
had
Nat, Mod
Monpost East, Monpost,
Modpost,
but I couldn't even
Alice
tell you what
Nat,
the name is. And then the other ones,
Alice Nat.
Maluna, yeah, and then the Mackay side was Maluna and is it Kikuiva? Maluna, and we called them top and bottom, so I don't know. But the name they list in the information, so they probably either renamed it or who knows, they might have rebuilt those dorms. I don't even know. I haven't been
Mm.
on campus in a long, long time. So
Oh, you'll be surprised. I think you have that picture in the background. You can see that how they built up intermediate school, yeah. There's
yeah,
this huge buildings there now. So, yeah, these kids are really well, we were also very fortunate, right?
yeah, because
To go to
I wish I could go back and take better advantage. There's lots of things I could have done more of, that would have put me ahead of the game, but it is what it is, and I feel blessed anyway for having made it through and graduated, and then I
yeah.
get to sit here and talk to an actual doctor.
Well, you had Sulin. That was an amazing story.
Very neat. When I first started the project, I was so unsure of if it would even get off the ground, and then I've been finding so many aspects that I hadn't planned that come up. People are going, "Wow, I used to be close to them in high school and I lost track." And now I get to fill in, the blanks and hear the stories, or somebody will say, "Oh, I'm not going to make it, but I feel like, at least I got to step in and hear the stories that I would have heard if I went, so they don't feel as bad. Because some of our class are not coming simply because of scheduling, you
Mhm.
know, and I've learned along the way that you can satisfy some of the people all the time or all the people some of the time, but
Yeah, yeah.
when you pick a date for any kind of event, it's hit or miss, man.
So this has caused me, when I listen to people, it's caused me to think about, different classmates from different times and those who are no longer here, as well as those who dropped out early for whatever reason or kicked out or whatever.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about, I don't know if you remember in seventh grade, we had this. He was so wacko. This Stevie Johnson, remember Stevie Johnson?
Oh, yeah.
He was a boarder. I think he didn't last past seventh grade because he refused to cut open the frog. But he was kind of a very unique person. He was a totally Howley looking, probably raised Howley, and then he was thrown in the midst of all of these Hawaiians. But anyway, I was thinking about him too. Kiave Bayer, I know, passed away.
He and I were both in Mod Post West, seventh grade.
Yeah, he passed away. Ivalani Goldstein, you heard about her? You heard from her? Ivalani Goldstein.
I think she's in New York or something, or
She was in your homeroom, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because I remember her hair was that's what I remember, her hair. She had big hair.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, when you like you mentioned Stevie Johnson, that's like, that's happened a few times in these sessions that a name will pop up, and I probably have not had that name in my head for 50 years,
Yeah, yeah,
but boom, it'll come in and there'll be memories connected. When I
yeah.
think back to how he acted, I think maybe Stevie had a condition like Asperger's or something, along
Probably,
those
yeah.
lines. Because I remember him being very uh, patterned in
Yeah,
what he
yeah,
was
yeah.
doing. Wow, amazing. It has always struck me because I've never had the best memory, but sometimes things will pop up from decades ago and they'll be crystal clear and I'll remember the whole thing. And then 10 minutes ago, I wouldn't be able to tell you where I was or what I was doing.
I was trying to remember the name of our classmate who he'd fallen from the Contessa, I think
Eric
seven or eighth grade.
Leong.
Oh,
Eric
Leon.
Leong.
I remember his name was Eric. Yeah, Eric Lee. That's right, Leon. Eric Leon. Yeah.
Wow. But you did a good job remembering the name of the building. All I know is it was a building and that's all I remember. So
Yeah, no, it's a Contessa because our church, once upon a time, Kauai Church used to own that property, and it still has that graveyard next to it.
okay. You mentioned Kawhi how did you ever have any interaction with Kurt Kekuna?
Yeah, he was my kahu.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We used to
So,
hang out with him in high school when he was doing the Young Life, and great
right,
guy.
right, right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
oh, he baptized my grandson later on in life. So
He was re he retired. I don't know if he retired several years ago. Would have to be more than 4 years ago. But anyway, Anela Ani goes to Kauai. I see her quite often.
I just
Um,
reached out to her recently. I haven't heard anything back, but because I look at the names of people who have responded to the sessions, so I know they're at least watching them.
oh, oh.
And but I think I had to send something on Messenger because I had no phone number or email for her. So hopefully, I want to ask her if she'll sit down with me and
Well, if I see her Sunday, I'll get a contact.
appreciate
Thomas
that.
and Billy Joel Cam come in once in a while.
Oh, all
Tommy
right.
Cam and Billy Joel.
Al, Tommy's on the Big Island.
Oh, that's right. Al Cam.
Yeah. Okay. How long have you been attending that church? Long time.
Since high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
My
you,
family has been there decades, but I decided to go back in high school. I don't know why. I guess because it was a big church, Hawaiian church. Hear the kahu speaking in Hawaiian. So anyway, one of my goals, when I said I wanted to learn Hawaiian like kahu kaupu, other goal was to be able to pray in Hawaiian. I thought that was so cool. Kahu kaupu could pray in Hawaiian. So I've accomplished that.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Along the way in my life, I've been at events where someone's been asked to step up and pray, and they've done it in Hawaiian. It's very impressive. I just wish I had been smart enough to study so I would have some idea of what they're talking about.
right. Well, times change. Like my father's generation, it was not cool to speak Hawaiian, although my both of my grandparents spoke fluent Hawaiian on my Hawaiian side. My mom is Japanese, so that's Japanese side.
Now,
So I have Hawaiian.
was your mom very Japanese or she spoke English too?
Well, she's fourth. What is she? She's second, third generation. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
third generation from Maui, Sparklesville, Maui, and then they moved here to Palolo to get a better. My grandfather moved here to get a better job. You know how that story goes. Yeah.
So have you ever actually lived on any of the other islands or Oahu all the time?
No, only Oahu. Born, bred, and will be dead on Oahu.
How
So like
far
the
up
monkey.
how far up in Nuuana do you live? Because my dad lived on Henry Street, Laimi area for a number of years. I used to go there on weekends to go see him, but
Oh, that's the posh part, Laimi. No, I live in Puehuehu, which is right by Kuakini Hospital.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I live right over there. It used to be peaceful, but I don't know. We get all kind of people moving in nowadays.
Question, is Jane's Fountain still open?
You know, did you hear rumor that it was closed?
I just haven't been, so I just have no
Yeah,
idea
there was
where
a
it is.
rumor that they closed, but they're still open.
Oh man, I mean that talk about an old standard, we used to just that used to be a treat, and there was really no treat about it except the food was so no, because the place had zero atmosphere, and
Right, right. Boxes all over the place, still the same. Were they still doing fountain drinks at that time?
yeah.
Yeah, they still have the fountains. They don't have the drinks.
Oh,
They still have the cash register, the manual one. They still have the jukebox. They still
oh,
have
geez.
the old seats and all, and the same menu. A little bit more expensive now,
We
but
can
my
blame it
favorite
on the
is
tariffs.
their bitter melon pork. I like theirs, bitter melon pork. Yeah, they're right on the street, not even a block away from my house.
Yeah, when you mentioned the hospital, I said, oh, okay, he must have at least passed by and can tell me.
Yeah, I will eat there once in a while. During the pandemic, I used to go there and patronize them so they would have business. Mhm.
And it's really a testament to how good they are for them to have survived through it,
Yeah,
because there's lots of sizable places with maybe fairly good incomes that didn't survive the pandemic.
right, right, right. They shut down and didn't come back. How are we doing on time?
Not bad. Comfortable. You have another Zoom behind us, don't you? You mentioned.
Oh, not into another hour. I got a lot
Oh,
of time.
okay.
Not that we're gonna talk that long, but
Yeah.
yeah. So that's my chant class. Um, Actually, we've been meeting steadily since the pandemic, right? Because we couldn't meet. So actually, it actually works out better. I find that people are more open to chanting in their own space than when we're in together, where they get kind of shy. So they're able to chant in their own space. So what we're working now is that the Kumulipo project for Lily Okalani's birthday in September. So that should be awesome. There are about 50 of us doing that.
Where are you
My
planning to hold the event on Oahu?
Yeah, Oahu at Iolani Palace.
Oh, right on.
Because Lily Okalani, when she was in prison, she set to translate the 2,102 lines of the Kumulipo. Because she's a descendant of that person, Kalani Ia Mamao, who that chant is written for. So
Right.
we're working on that in my chant class.
One sec, Kalani. I gotta find a cell phone here.
Okay.
Okay, mahalo. So, do you stay in pretty constant contact with Camuela, or the idea was just born for this event and you reconnected for that, or
Yeah, actually, of all of the classmates, he and I have had the most continuous contact. So I had invited him to judge a chanting competition I put on several years ago. And out of that came his idea to redo. I think in 2000 he had some students chant the Kumulipo. I went to their practice, Kermit, 3 hours. It took them 3 hours to recite the 2,102 lines of the Kumulipo.
wow.
This is the same chant that they chanted to Captain Cook at Napo'opo'o when he came to Kealakekua Bay. There's a heiau there called Hikiau. They chanted the Kumulipo to him because they thought he was Lono, right? The god Lono. And so Kalani Mama or Lono Ikamakahiki was chanted to him. So that it took 3 hours. He had to sit for 3 hours or more, maybe, listening to this chant.
And then, so obviously, I think to myself too, just the act of learning it and memorizing it has got to be, I mean, I cannot even begin to imagine.
Well, yeah. So we have to devise kind of strategies, break it up by parts and all. But our kupuna were great memorizers, right? You think about all of these kumu and all the hula they have to memorize, or today the modern kumu is the musician and all the songs they have to memorize. We get lazy because you can put your iPad up or whatever, but our kupuna, everything was opa na oh, memorize. Get it inside of you now. Oh, your gut. Yeah.
But I
Today
think they
we
were
have,
more practiced too because oral history was, passed down through what you remembered and,
hmm
so I think maybe they used that portion of their brain more than we did, so they're probably stronger.
yeah, definitely. So, but it's been an interesting journey. Um, the other project I'm working on is, remember I told you I did my dissertation on hey. The Hawaiian word for string figures is hey. So a group of us, we're writing a Hawaiian language manual of all about 100 string figures in hey. And our target group is mainly the Hawaiian immersion children. So they have a text that they can actually go to. I'm going to supplement it with videos of, people doing hay figures, chanting. Most of them have a chant or story connected to them, right? So it was another way, like hula, where our people would tell our stories and pass it down from generation to generation.
Now, was
So
that connected at all with that string game we used to play in seventh and eighth grade where one person would have it spread out and then you'd have to grab and go around? And it's probably American, huh? I don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, those are all string figures are universal, but Hawaiian ones are different in that um we use them to tell stories, right? Or tell a history or a genealogy or so or whatever. We have some with partners, but the string figures are huge. It could be like 6 feet, 6 feet long. Yeah, we do it two people. So they're a little bit more complex. Um, but it's something that many Hawaiians don't even know exists. So that's what our gift to the next generation would be this manual of videos. We're gonna use videos and all kind of stuff. So, in our old age, I got to learn stuff like AI, like this Nuualo Valley in the back of me. That's all AI generated. So it's not exactly Nuuanu, it's somewhere, someplace.
But same with me for doing this project. I've had to
Exactly, right?
get a little bit better and simplify the connection so that people don't have to really even understand Zoom. They just got to be able to click and go. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly. Yeah. You gotta learn
when
how to share.
you mentioned Raymond Elia, you mentioned a brother. Was that a younger brother?
His older brother, Kaniala, was class of 74 or 3 or something like that. And then he had a sister too, yeah. Um, I forgot her name though. I think Kawa or Raymond, we call him Kawa. Kawa Makani is his Hawaiian name. I think he was the youngest of the Elias that came to Kamehameha.
Okay, I think I do remember there was a border last name Elia that was 73, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's Kaniala. He didn't look
Okay.
like Raymond at all. He looked more I don't know,
Hapakaila.
he looked maybe a little Asian, but I don't think they have Chinese or Japanese.
Huh.
Yeah, that was him, Kaniala.
Okay. Because even like when I sat down with Danelle, I never realized that was her brother Henry that was in my dorm for, you know, 3 of the 4 years
Yeah,
that I was there. So
right, right.
uh it's
You
a
know,
it's
these
a
surprises, right? Like I didn't even know Kalani was my cousin. I didn't even know that. But it's interesting how God brings people into your life, right? For special reasons, right?
absolutely, they're all necessary, and it takes me back to, how the educator can make or break, like Mrs. Matsuda, or a good influence that really leaves a strong impression in your mind and teaches you maybe some lifelong important lessons. So yeah,
Who
they can make or break, I think.
was your inspirational teachers at Kamehameha?
I don't know if he was necessarily inspirational, but I enjoyed his class with Mr. Martin. He taught
Oh, I don't
English
remember him.
because he
English.
had a real repertoire of dad jokes, I guess they would call them today. He was funny. He just was a relaxed, funny guy. He was a dorm advisor too. I think the ones that were, I never really had them as teachers, but they were our dorm advisors. Mr. Chai, Mr. Jeter, Mr. Campbell. I guess maybe because we saw them so much of the day,
Mm.
as dorm advisors. So
They're like surrogate fathers, yeah.
yeah, and my father presence wasn't very strong, so I really appreciated it. It really sticks with me, and I remember them a lot. So, but yeah, we had some good teachers. Or Mr. Maresta, a math teacher, he got me through math. Sophomore year, I walked out with a D, and then he sat me down for a couple afternoons and clarified things for me, and he had a real good sense of how to put it in terms I already understood and relay
Mm.
them. So then they really made sense. Like I was challenged by fractions, but I was pretty good mechanically. So he brought out a socket set, and I quickly knew, 1/8 is, in relation to 3/8, and 5/16, and I already was doing those conversions for that, but I never thought that's what fractions were. I don't know. Never put two and two together till he
Yeah,
showed me how. So
yeah, you need somebody to do that.
yeah. So we
Yeah,
had
mine were all the
good
Hawaiian
teachers.
teachers. Yeah, Mrs. Quick, Walter Kahiva, Annie Bowman, Auntie Nona. Oh, here's another one. Aholu Canberra. Richards used to be with the Napono van. She ends up being my auntie.
Oh,
She ends up being my auntie. Yeah. I didn't find out until after I graduated. And she was the one who actually told me, "Are you related to so and so?" And I said, "No," because she said the name of the person differently. My Uncle Joseph, she said Uncle Joel. And I went, "Oh, I don't think so." And they were not till later on that I found out she was my real auntie.
Wow.
And the other person, I don't know if you remember Leroy Bass. Remember Mr.
Yeah.
Bass?
Yep. I never had his class, but I heard so many good things. I wanted to take the class. I just never
He
got
was
there. So
thought-provoking. He would say stuff like, um, are you are you Hawaiians niggers? And what? And the class would go in an uproar. I said, "Yeah, you're gonna be a nigger. If you don't know the law, you'll be treated like a nigger." But he was half Popolo, right? He was half white, half Popolo. But he just everything he said was shocking, but methodical and understanding and appreciating the law. So I really mahalo that person. I don't know what happened to him, but yeah, Mr. Bass would be one of my inspirational teachers who was not Hawaiian.
and that brings to mind too. I hadn't thought about him in a long time, but I think his name was Thurston. He was the philosophy teacher.
Oh,
And he was same thing. He'd get in, rip your brain apart and put it back together again, and you'd walk out of his class just dizzy, but your thinking was expanded. So
right. That's a mark of a good teacher.
yeah, because
Yeah,
we
get you
spent
to think.
about half the semester trying to answer this question for him, and I forget the story behind it. Oh, he asked us to give him an absolute truth. And we thought, oh, duck soup. And really at the end, it came down to where he, we could not, according to him. And so the last day of class, we told him, well, you give us the absolute truth. So he drew a box, split the box in half. He wrote in one side, God exists. In the other half, he wrote, God does not exist. And he goes, there's your absolute truth. One
Hmm.
of them has to be, but he never
Hmm.
said which one. So, and I think it
Yeah,
had
right.
to do with the fact that without the opposing side, you cannot have the other side.
Hmm.
You cannot have hot without cold.
Right, right.
So
Can I have yin without yang?
that's the one. So we're gonna see you class night then. Are you going to the luau or the
No, I'm just gonna
midday?
go to the paina, the kupuna paina and the reunion.
Okay.
You know, yeah, my like I said, my tribes were I belong to the nerd tribe and the hula tribe and there's not a lot of us around in our class, right? So I think Kamo's going to the class night. Sounds like it's gonna be awesome.
Should be a good time. Do you still drive?
No, I don't. I think that we're very lucky. We have a service called Handy Van. So I call them up and they come pick you up, or if or friends or family will come and pick me up.
Right on.
But I pretty much get around on my scooter. Yeah, from here I can go down to Long's Drugs and whatever, do my shopping. And we used to have a Foodland on the street, but they closed. By the way, if you ever need poke, go to Foodland.
That's the place,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, one of the best places for poke. In fact, I bought some and I was thinking about, oh, this would be good at a maybe I should bring some to the luau, but they'll probably have that there. So I'm
I would
looking forward.
imagine they do a pretty good menu. So
I remember the last time I went to one was at the Kekuhau PO2. I don't know what year that was. I don't remember going to the 40th. I remember going to the 10th and something else. I don't know why I went. And then this one. But
40
everybody's been doing a good job, just coordinating everything.
Oh,
Kathy and
fantastic job. Yeah.
Kathy and her the team.
Yeah.
So
Big props to all of them, man. They've done some good work with good results. So, and all for our benefit. So, a big mahalo to them.
exactly.
Well, brother, I want to say mahalo for taking the time to sit down with me. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank
I was getting a little bit of pressure to go after you from some of our unnamed classmates who said, "Hey, you gotta get Kalani on. You gotta get Kalani on." So mahalo for making it happen.
I hope it wasn't too boring, but again,
No,
much mahalo to you and of course to
none of them have been, my brother.
yeah. Well, malama pono, malama kia kopu, and ahui ho aku at our class reunion.
Right on. Mahalo.
Ai, ahui
Oi
ho.
vai, kimaho shaka.